G'day guys and gal, the power scaling in 40k is a bit all over the shop. You have people like Malum Cato running around acting like a Primarch, whilst occasionally you have guardsmen beating space marines in sword duels. And look, I don't mind it. After all, if you have a 99% chance of beating someone in a setting that spans the entire galaxy, there will be a lot of instances of that 1% popping up. So this begs the question, which unit from each faction is the definitive most powerful? Because we're saying unit, we'll need to be going generic, so I'm not going to count Primarchs as a unit, as they are individual characters. I'm talking someone the setting can just pull out of its arse at a moment's notice, and if they were to die, there would be others of the same caliber to take their place. Speaking of absolute units, I founded a supplement company called Natty Plus, and it's been incredible. It hasn't even been a year yet, and we have over a dozen thousand customers worldwide, have connected with some incredible people, and have achieved insane results for many of our customers, who have literally been sending in their blood work to prove it. It was only yesterday we sent the blood work of a customer who got a 100% increase in testosterone, literally doubling their testosterone from our ultimate testosterone booster. Now there are three exciting announcements. Firstly, we have just launched our melatonin-free version of our sleep support. This supplement is goated. It makes you fall asleep faster, stay asleep, get more REM and deep sleep. Personally my favorite, and we've literally had people tell us it changed their lives. However, melatonin isn't for everyone. Some people feel groggy the next day, so bang, same formula, just no melatonin. For me, I take the no melatonin formula 3 caps every night, full recovery dose. Then on the weekend, or when I know I can sleep in, I'll pop 3 of the melatonin version. This is my normal sleep score on a normal night, and this is my sleep score when I take the sleep support. It's a no-brainer. I'm also happy to announce that we'll partner with Express Pathology, a pathology provider that lets you pay for custom blood tests within Australia. The idea of Natty Plus is supplements that actually improve your biomarkers, so we want to make it as easy as possible for people to see the results for themselves. Finally, we've also officially partnered with Matt Orchard, an IFBB pro. Basically, we said to him, take our subs. If they manage to maintain or improve your blood work over your current supplement stack, then join us. If not, then don't. Well, they did, so now he's on board, and this is a dude who rarely partners with anyone. Thank you guys for the support on this. Use the link below or code Majorkill for 20% off store-wide. Today we'll go over each faction's most powerful unit, not character. Let's get into it. Now I wanted to be actually a bit more specific rather than just saying Imperium, Eldar, and so on, since technically the Mechanicus, Sisters of Battle, Space Marines, Custodians, Harlequins, Dark Eldar, and so on are all different factions, so let's treat them as such for this video, starting with the Custodians. There is actually a pretty well-defined power ranking here. Custodian Wardens are more powerful than Custodian Guards. However, a Custodian Alaris is even more powerful, but then what about a Custodian Dreadnought? After all, the Contemptor Galatus is widely considered to be one of the most well-manufactured dreadnoughts in the entire galaxy, combining speed with power. Most dreadnoughts sacrifice maneuverability and finesse for girth and firepower, often a pretty good trade, but the Galatus gets the best of both worlds. However, there is always a bigger fish, and in the Custodian's case, it's the Telemon Heavy Dreadnought, a walking weapons platform that could throw hands with a knight no worries. This golden sex icon is loaded with all kinds of ancient archaic tech that nobody knows how to build anymore. Specialized storm cannons, power fists, force fields, and also has a bunch of missiles on its back. This is as powerful as Custodian units get. But what about Space Marines? What Space Marine unit type is the most powerful? Now I can't just say ranks like Chapter Master, although often a Chapter Master is one of, if not the most powerful Space Marine in a chapter. Now that would defeat the purpose of the game. Terminator Space Marines are those warriors who have proven themselves time and time again, thus being granted specialized, powerful, rare armor. Terminator Space Marines often ripping through non-Terminator Space Marines like chaff. However, it goes further than this. See, the Dark Angels have the Deathwing Knights, the most vengeful and ruthless of Space Marine Terminators, while Centurions, although goofy looking, are like halfway between a Dreadnought and a Space Marine. Not to mention there also exists a Thunderwolf Cavalry for the Space Wolves, so you can see it gets a bit complicated. However, there is one Space Marine unit type that tends to stand above the rest quite consistently and is an absolute monster in the battlefield, that being Librarians, or for a bit of extra spice, a Librarian in Terminator armor. See, technically, you could be a god-tier Space Marine warrior with incredible weapons and war gear, perhaps an undefeated duelist with over 100 confirmed kills against other Space Marines, and then you go up against a Space Marine Librarian and he pops your brain with a thought, your crushed skull breaking through your Vox grill. A Space Marine Librarian gets all the benefits of being a Space Marine, and then they're even more powerful as the warp can be channeled through their body to increase their strength, durability, and speed, and they can also shoot lightning out of their dick holes. It's no wonder characters like Mephiston are borderline demigods. Now for the Mechanicus. The Mechanicus has all kinds of crazy shit, but I'm not going to waste your time here. The most powerful Mechanicus unit, by far, is a Titan, more specifically an Imperator Titan. Now, as wild as it may be referring to an Imperator as a somewhat generic unit, it's technically true. They can be made, there are numerous of them, and they're a unit type, albeit a bit of a god tier unit type. Imperator Titans are one-man armies, able to hold against almost any force with enough firepower to level a city and enough shielding to withstand an apocalypse. Nothing built from the Forge Worlds of the Martian Empire can even come close. Now, there is also the Side Titans of the Ordo Sinister, who are powerful as hell, but I don't know how to classify them as they are not creations of Mars, and they also use a Warlord, not an Imperator chassis. In a straight up fight, it's hard to tell if a Side Titan could take out an Imperator, so I'll hold the Side Titan as an honourable mention. How about the Sisters of Battle, those holy baddies from the depths of our wet dreams? Well, most Sisters are actually quite level. They don't have a ton of armor variants, and often their larger war machines, like their Penitent engines or Mortifiers, have their own issues. Sisters in Paragon war suits are often the mightiest units on the field, able to trade blows with the heavy hitters of the other factions. However, the Sisters also do love modifying their tanks, ending up with some obscenely powerful tank variants, such as the Exorcists, Immolators, or even the Castigators. Now, this entire debate vanishes if we class the ultimate Sister of Battle warriors as units, that being their living saints. It's a fine line. If we aren't classing Phoenix Lords or Primarchs as units, can we class living saints? I would say yes. Although living saints are incredibly rare, there is probably more of them than there are Telemon Dreadnoughts, and just because we know the name of one, that being Saint Celestine, doesn't instantly make them all unique characters that disqualify them from this list. They are all a unit type with shared traits, and the story can randomly shit them out and kill them off as it desires. So although it is pushing it, living saints are the most powerful Sister of Battle unit. How about Guardsmen? Well, Guardsmen don't really have super soldiers, but they do have a few cool elite units such as the Cascarin, which have often been shown to take out Space Marines, as well as Ogryn, who are absolute units, but the true power of the Astra Militarum is in their armoured war machines. Now, we could just say Death Strike and call it a day, basically a mobile intercontinental ballistics tank. However, I have to go with the Baneblade and its variants, the Shadow Sword and Storm Sword. Baneblades are mega tanks with enough firepower to turn the tide of a battle, whilst Shadow Swords are literally made to kill Titans, and Storm Swords are like battering rams. Space Marines and Titans alike will say oh shit whenever one of these bad boys gets rolled out. Now let's check out the Eldar. The Craft Eldars have a few extremely heavy hitter units, so it's actually hard to decide. At a glance, you might say an Autarch, the pinnacle of Eldar martial perfection, having mastered multiple paths of the warrior and often the chosen war leaders of Eldar forces. However, they would get cleaned up by a Wraith Lord, who in turn wouldn't stand a chance against a Wraith Knight. Now, Wraith Knights are insane, but the Eldar also have Titans, such as the Revenant as well as the Phantom. We haven't even mentioned the avatars of Cain yet, who for all their ferocity, I would say is still a level below the Phantom Titans, which are the largest of all Eldar Titans. As a bit of extra spice, the Phantom Titan has a rarer variant called the Warlock Titan, which is basically a Psychic Titan, so yeah, have fun with that one. I would not be surprised in the slightest if a Warlock Titan could take out an Imperator. The Dark Eldar have a bit less spice, preferring to use larger numbers and hero characters, but they still have some heavy hitting units. The Incubi represent the peak of Dark Eldar martial prowess and are feared across the galaxy. You could argue that Archons are more powerful, but they are leader units of Dark Eldar, so it would be like saying a Space Marine Chapter Master is the most powerful unit in the Space Marines, which I've already ruled out. Maybe Mandrakes can come close. However, if we actually want to pick a more powerful unit, then I present the Talos, the pinnacle of Dark Eldar cruelty, a mix of machine, lube, man, and pain. These monsters can dice up Space Marines like sashimi. If they ever fail in their task, they are automatically decommissioned, which keeps their standard pretty high. But yeah, of course, this is the Dark Eldar's heavy hitter, those freaks. As for the Harlequins, I'll save us some time here. The Solitaires hands down. These guys are monsters, able to kill basically anything without effort. They're hand-chosen by their laughing god, who values them so much that even though their souls are promised to Slanesh, Kagorak will try cheat and steal them back anyway when they die, often successfully. They have godlike reflexes, move so fast that Space Marines can't even track them, and have some pretty vicious weaponry. For all intents and purposes, I would more or less call them Eldar demigods. And yes, they are most certainly a type of unit, as we very rarely get to know their names. Now for Chaos. There are so many sub-factions of Chaos, so we're just going to go with the one definitively strongest unit that theoretically any of the sub-factions could use. Now, Chaos has big fuck-off demons. They also have Titans, so which is better? Well, Chaos can also mix their demons with their Titans to make Demon Titans, which are the most bullshit hacks nonsense ever. They can self-regenerate, don't really follow the rules, and are ungodly strong. Literally just read about the Dies Irae. That Titan is so obscenely ridiculous it's actually not even fun to read about anymore. However, it does make the Demon Titans the most powerful unit in the Ruinous Powers armory. I'm going to clump Genestealers and Tyranids together, as Genestealers aren't really designed to be heavy hitters. Now, Hive Tyrants used to be up there as the Tyranid top dogs, more powerful than even the Carnifexes. However, the Nids recently created a new bioform that shits on them hard. This new form is the Norn Emissary, as well as its variant, the Norn Assimilator. These are designated hero killers. See, the Hive mind noticed that factions love throwing heroes and champions into battle to rally their troops and kill their synapse creatures, so they created their countermeasures, with the Norn Emissary ripping through a Custodian squad once with ease, only stopping when it fought the literal Captain General of the Custodian Guard, who is arguably one of the greatest warriors in the galaxy right now. However, the Nids also have the Haradans, basically Tyranid dragons, as well as the Biotitans, which for all their lack of finesse, are still the undisputed top dogs of the Tyranid forces. Thus, the Tyranid Hierophant Biotitan remains their apex predator. For the Tau, we can skip a lot of their fluff, as it's obvious that their most powerful unit would be a battlesuit, but which one? After all, they don't believe in Titans, as they think Titans are retarded, so they don't just have an obvious one we can throw in here. I also don't want to include the Tau Manta, as it's more of a ship, and yeah, I don't know, picking a ship just doesn't feel right. Fortunately for the Tau, they do have a big fuck-off battlesuit that fits the bill. They're aptly named Supremacy Armor. See, the Tau were really struggling with Knights, Titans from various factions, even Dreadnoughts. The Tau would excel at hit-and-run tactics with their battlesuits, but often they wouldn't be able to do any meaningful damage, so they decided to sacrifice mobility for firepower and range. What I mean is that the Supremacy Armor is designed to take on the big dogs of the other factions, thus making it a big dog itself. It has incredibly powerful shielding and is way larger than any other battlesuit, thus I would call it the Tau's greatest unit. Now for the Orcs. Orcs are a simple folk. The strongest become war bosses, however the war bosses are not considered a unit, so suddenly it's hard to figure out which unit is the strongest. Until you remember that Orcs also technically have Titans, which they call Gargants. Now Gargants are pretty trash tier Titans, which is compensated by how easy they are to build. However, sometimes Orcs will have a moment of inspiration and figure out how to build a Mega Gargant, which have the firepower to be able to take out Imperator Titans, if the context is right. But yeah, nothing else comes close to the Mega Gargant in the Orcs arsenal. Now we have the Necrons. Necrons also don't really have Titans or obvious frontrunners. Some of their big dogs include monoliths and Serpentech heavy constructs, but these don't hold a candle to Catan shards. Now if the Catan were unsharded, I would consider them characters. However, since there are hundreds of Catan shards out there, maybe more, they are more rank and file than even the avatars of Cain. You know you've been humbled bad when you go from gods of reality to a unit. RIP Catan. And lastly, the Leagues of Votan. I'll be honest, nothing in their lineup is really jumping out at me. Their Chthonian Berserkers and Hearthguard look sick, same as their Thunderkin, but the Ironkin Steeljacks look even girthier than them. However, going purely off size and vibes, the Hecaton Land Fortress is probably the most powerful unit they have at the moment, at least in their tabletop lineup. I'm sure if you've read their lore, they're packing some seriously hectic shit somewhere else. If you disagree with this list or think I've missed a few heavy hitters, comment them below. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up some 90+ subs, backed by Pathology, IFBB pros, and Warhammer nerds alike. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.